Starting off with Jamar Chase and Puka Nacua, it was a toss-up for me between Chase and Puka. Puka Nacua's ceiling is just absolutely insane after last year, and the Rams still project to be the best offense in the NFL. But with the recent legal troubles that Puka's gotten into, I've moved Puka down to the bottom of S tier, Chase at the top of S tier. Now, I have JSN in A tier. Most people don't have JSN in A tier. Most people are going to have JSN there in that S tier of players. They project out to be from the second best offense in the league to the ninth best offense in the league this year. So I personally am going to be moving JSN to the top of the A tier for the receivers. Next up, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, the safest pick in all of fantasy football. He's going to go out there, play 16 plus games per week. He's going to go be a dog. He's going to play through injuries no matter what. Round out A tier, I'm taking Justin Jefferson ahead of CeeDee Lamb, which a lot of people don't agree with that. But I'm betting on that Jay Jetta's bounce back. Jay Jetta's the alpha number one wide receiver in that Vikings offense. Same as CeeDee, but CeeDee has Pickens to deal with all the target competition that CeeDee will take away. All right, so starting out B tier, we do have Nico Collins. With the loss of Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, he's going to be the alpha there. No other target competition. Tank Dell's come back from injury, which he could be okay, but that was a devastating injury. He hasn't played football in almost 2 years now. Malik Neighbors is my wide receiver 8. I think he's a much safer pick than most people think, as long as he himself is back and okay, which he looks amazing if you're watching the training camp highlights, videos, whatever. He looks great coming back from that devastating ACL tear last year. The thing most people are also worried about is that Jackson Dart can't stay healthy. If Jameis Winston is the quarterback, he has even more upside than with Jackson Dart as his QB, because Winston's just going to go out there and sling it to him probably 30+% of the time. Drake London, AJ Brown, Chris Olave, all alpha wide receiver ones in their offenses. London is going to see the sheer amount of target volume that those other two won't see quite as much as, even though Olave is kind of nearing that territory with the Tyson injury news that we have. We'll talk about that later on. AJ Brown's just going to be in the best offense of the three. So if you want to go bank on that touchdown upside and Drake May continuing to play at that MVP level they did last year, then you go do that. You take AJ Brown in this range. But if you want to bet on volume and volume alone, you go get Drake London. Olave's closest comparables at age 25 were Amon-Ra, Megatron, and Tyreek Hill. All these guys average 19 plus points per game in the following season. Pickens and Rashee Rice here. I think Pickens is going to regress this year just because CeeDee Lamb is going to be healthy. Javonte is going to keep getting that roll out of the backfield. But I do think you could feel good if you take Pickens as your wide receiver one, if you went heavy on the RBs and even maybe took a tight end early in the draft. And to round out B tier, we do have Rashee Rice. Rice will be fine. He's never been an elite separator. He's never been super fast. He's only been good in fantasy because the Chiefs schemed him to be good in fantasy. And they're going to keep doing that because he's their wide receiver one there. They're not just going to magically stop throwing him and scheming the ball up for him. So Mahomes is going to be fine. Rice is going to be fine. I'm still fine with taking Rashee Rice as a high-end wide receiver too. Next up, we're going to get into C tier. I have Tet at the top of C tier here for me. He's going to get so much target volume in that Panthers offense. He's in a very elite prospect, had an absolutely insane season before getting drafted out of Arizona. Being in the slot has unlocked a guy like JSN, who out of the slot last year was one of the top 3 receivers in all of fantasy the whole season. So if you can get Tet in the slot and that Carolina Panthers offense is able to prove to the upside slightly this year, I think Tet could finish as a top 10 wide receiver. The Waddle, Smith, Flowers part of C tier here. These are all wide receiver ones in what should be pretty good offenses. Waddle over Smith and Flowers here, despite them all being wide receiver ones in good offenses. I'm just going to prefer Waddle because Nix is a better passer than Hurts is, and there's going to be more passing volume in that Broncos offense as opposed to the Ravens offense with Lamar running the ball a lot out of the backfield. Next up, we got T. Higgins here. He is the wide receiver 2 in his offense, but an offense with insane volume. Joe Burrow could throw for 40-plus touchdowns this year, and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase both finish as top 10 wide receiver options. Not too hard to think about right there. Ladd McConkey is a guy that's moving up my rankings. I could see myself putting him above T. Higgins if things keep going well for him in training camp and the reports keep going well. I think that Ladd McConkey is going to have a bounce back year this year with Mike McDaniel as his offensive coordinator. Then to round out C tier, we have Garrett Wilson. He's in the worst offense by far of this whole tier, but he's still an elite talent, and he has better QB play in Geno Smith than he had last year with Justin Fields and company. The last time he had elite QB play, he was not even elite QB play, just decent QB play in post-Achilles Aaron Rodgers. He was a very good, I think a top 10 or 12 fantasy wide receiver. And I think Gino's about that same point in his career. Like Gino at this point in his career is about where first year post Achilles Rodgers was. So I think Garrett Wilson is a fine pick. Now here at the start of D tier, we have Ibuka and Odunze. I think Rome is the wide receiver 1 for the Bears, hands down. If this Ibuka injury keeps nagging, I am going to be moving Rome ahead of Ibuka, and I could even see myself moving Jameson above both Devontae and Ibuka, depending. But I think Rome is going to be elite. He averaged close to 20 points per game first four games last season, and then when he came back, he just was never the same. But I think that Caleb's going to pepper him, especially with the Burden injury news now. So I think Rome is going to be that wide receiver 1 there. Devontae Adams, he's over 30 years old. He's completely relying on touchdowns. You're just betting on that Rams offense being good and getting him the touchdowns again this year. Jameson, Evans, and Terry McLaurin, youngest wide receiver of the 3. He's in the best offense, and arguably he's in the offense with the most passing volume, because a lot of the Niners passing volume is going to go to CMC, and Daniels is just going to run the ball a lot, even after these injuries he's had. I think Mike Evans will be higher on a week-to-week basis for me, but I'm baking in that injury price here with him at wide receiver 25 right now. We got the E tier. I have Brian Thomas Jr. starting off my E tier. Last year, he dealt with some injuries. He lost his best friend in Karen Lacey. That stuff affects you on and off the field more than you guys would think. So I'm betting the BTJ bounce back. I have him as my wide receiver 27. If he can do anything close to what he did his first year, this would be an insane value here. I just don't see the guys like Christian Watson, DJ Moore, and Luther Burden having that same ceiling as BTJ, while also BTJ probably having close to the same floor as them. The lowest floor in this tier is either Burden or Carnell Tate. I personally prefer Tate because he's going to be the wide receiver 1. And even though it's a bad offense season, he has last year's number 1 pick in Cam Ward. He has Brian DeBall, who in the past has shown that he gets the ball to his number 1 receiver, even if it's a rookie, like when he did it with Malik Neighbors. So I personally think that Carnell Tate could be a league winner at this range. He also could be nothing this year. You never know. Just kind of depends on how that offense plays out. And then with a guy like DJ Moore, this is the wide receiver 1 attached to the best QB in fantasy. So I'm going to take that bet as a wide receiver 3 price tag right here, low end wide receiver 3 price tag. And then I'm not taking any Luther Burden. I don't think he's that good. He averaged like 6 points per game outside of 2 20-point games last year. And he's going to be the 3rd or 4th option in this offense, depending if you count DeAndre Swift as getting passing volume. 40. One guy in this range I really do love. I love Quentin Johnson. Getting him at the wide receiver as a wide receiver 4 price tag. Like, this guy was super good last year. He kind of petered out second half of the year, but there were a lot of injuries in that offense. Herbert was injured. The line was injured. Omar and Hampton was injured, so the running game was worse. And not to mention, you now have Mike McDaniel there as the offensive play caller. And he's shown in the past that if he has 2 good receivers, that they're both going to be fantasy relevant. He did it with Waddle and Tyreek back in 2023, I think it was. I wouldn't want to draft him much higher than this per se, but I love drafting him around here because I know that ceiling is going to be there for him. Jordan Addison, another wide receiver 2 in a middle of the pack offense. I think Kyler's going to prove to the upside, so I think Addison could go back to what he was pre-JJ McCarthy, which was a top 24 wide receiver most weeks, sometimes had that upside to be like a top 12 guy week-to-week basis. And then you got Marvin Harrison, who's my wide receiver 32 right now. I think Michael Wilson's going to have a bigger role than people are expecting, but I can't hate on Marv. Like, I can't, not that I can't hate on Marv, I can't discount Marv any more than this just because he was such an elite prospect. And if he does end up being the wide receiver 1 in this offense and actually doesn't have problems dropping the ball, he's going to be better than a wide receiver 32 finish. On, you got DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, Parker Washington, Mekhi Lemon. DK Metcalf is the only wide receiver 1 in that range of those 4 guys, but he's going to be in the Steelers, who's always a low volume passing offense. I think they'll have obviously a little more volume now with Mike McCarthy there as the offensive play caller, but still Rodgers is 40-something years old. You do have Michael Pittman coming in to take a little target volume there. Not to mention they're going to want to run the ball out there. They have Jalen Warren. They bring in Rico Dowdle this year. They're going to run the ball still. Chris Godwin, if Ibuka's out for like 4+ weeks to start the year, Godwin is going up my rankings tremendously. Because even though he's older, he would be the wide receiver 1 in that offense, and I think it's worth it to take a shot at him as a wide receiver 4 price tag. And then Parker Washington, the hype's insane to me. As a wide receiver 4, like whatever, like take him here. But I think BTJ is going to be the wide receiver 1. Jakobi Meyers is still going to have some type of role in this offense. And if Travis Hunter comes back and is playing offensive snaps, he's going to be starting over Parker Washington and Jakobi Meyers because he is an elite talent compared to these two. Parker Washington's done nothing in 3 or 4 years in the league, so I don't see why that would change now. So you got Mekhi Lemon, Cortland Sutton, Stephon Diggs. These are all wide receiver 2s in middle-of-the-pack offenses. Lemon's going to have low passing volume. Diggs is probably going to have lower passing volume because Daniels is going to run the ball a lot as well. I see Sutton having the most passing volume out of the 3 guys in this range. I think Lemon has the highest ceiling out of these 3 if somehow he breaks out and is just like absolutely goes off because he is the best prospect. He has the great prospect profile and he's the youngest out of the 3. But then again, if Terry McLaurin goes down, I think Diggs shoots up my rankings tremendously because he was I believe a wide receiver 2 finish last year. Last tier of guys here, the G tier. I have Michael Wilson and KC Concepcion at the top of this tier. They're both in really garbage offenses, but Michael Wilson showed that elite upside that he had last year when Marv was out. I mean, he was the wide receiver 3 overall through the second half of the season in points per game. KC is a good prospect profile, not an amazing prospect profile. I think he's like a 70-something FSE grade, but he's going to be the elite. Or not the elite. He's going to be a target hog in that offense. If Deshaun Watson can at all prove the upside this year and play a little better than he has in the past couple of years, not even close. He doesn't even have to play close to what he was when he first signed this contract. Just like competent quarterback play. KC Concepcion, if he can get some touchdowns there, he's going to see so many targets that this is going to be an amazing price to get him at. Wan'Dale Robinson and Alec Pierce are guys I don't really want. Wan'Dale will be higher for me in my week 1 rankings and so on and so forth until Carnell Tate truly breaks out. And then after that, Wando's probably going to go down my rankings a lot. Then you have Jordan Tyson. If he comes back and is the player that we think he's going to be, then this is the best value in the draft right here. Get him at pick 46, stash him on your IR spot. But if that injury actually keeps him out for half the season and then he comes back and just isn't the same because he's still rehabbing from the injury, that's whatever. But you just drop him at this range. You take him as a wide receiver 5 in this range, so it doesn't even matter. You got Deshaun Stribling. Mike Evans goes down, which I don't want to wish injury on anyone, but the last couple of seasons are any indicator. Evans most likely will end up going down at some point in the season. Who knows how Kittle is when he comes back. I think he'll be fine, but Deshaun Stribling could be the true X wide receiver 1 in this offense, and there's a ton of Campos, ton of hype around him, and you're still able to get him outside of the top 45 wide receivers. So I'm taking him, take that late round flyer on him. I'm moving him up ahead of Jordan Tyson if there's no IR spot. Like Jordan Tyson's undraftable without an IR spot. Doesn't matter. And then round out the tier, you have Jayden Reed, Jakobi Meyers, Josh Downs. These are all going to be wide receiver 2s or even worse. In Meyers' case, he's going to be the wide receiver 3 in his offense. Downs maybe could be 2 if Keenan Allen takes up targets like he did last year. And then Jayden Reed just isn't on the field enough. So if they can't get him on the field more this year, then he's not going to be able to do much. He is a very efficient wide receiver, though, so that is the saving grace. That if the Packers are good offense, throwing a lot of touchdowns, then he could make some big plays and go catch some touchdowns and be a good streamable flex player week to week. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. I'll be happy to answer them. I will be starting to do paid fantasy advice here once we get this YouTube up and running. I don't know if we'll do it through live streams or if we'll just do it videos that we send your inbox, but we're going to be setting that up soon. Probably be like $5 to $10 to get my rankings, and then another like $5 per team review or something like that. Something small for now. Hope you guys did enjoy, and if you have any questions, let me know down below. We'll see you soon.